Hi, boys and girls. Back for more Pilgrim stories, but the first thing we're going to do today is to write the sentence about the Pilgrim's voyage. And you have 2 pages in your history notebook about it. Let me see if I can find the other one that I've made for you. I made a page. You have one in there like this. That's our next one. And I think at the end of the section on the Pilgrims, or it might have been at the beginning, you have a page that looks like this. So it shows the route where they left Plymouth in England and they went to Plymouth in the New World and they named it Plymouth. They were supposed to be sailing south to Virginia, but they ended up stopping in Cape Cod. And that was the picture that I showed you last time. I didn't include it in your history journal this year because we're just going to pick right up with this next year when we start school again. And we're going to finish the rest of the story. So this was the picture. Hopefully yours is, no. I hope I didn't include this in yours. I can't quite remember. I thought I ended the last one on the Thanksgiving dinner that you're gonna be able to color this year. I think this is your last one. I hope it is. Anyway, but we looked at where they landed in Cape Cod in New England. And remember we've studied bays and capes, and then we've studied isthmuses and straits. Well, this is an isthmus is a narrow strip of land in between 2 larger bodies of water. And that is where they landed, or this could be, and that's why they could not settle there. Okay, that was where we ended. So let's start today with writing our sentence, and we're going to write on this page, and you could probably read this too. It says 1620, the 1620 Mayflower voyage, and they set off on September 6th. It says September 6th sailed from England and November 11th anchored in Cape Cod Harbor. So you could make up your own sentence, but the sentence I'm going to write is, it took the Pilgrims 9 weeks to sail across the Atlantic, or to sail on the Mayflower. So I'm going to start out with the capital I for it, capital I-T, it. Then I'm going to do a finger space, took. That's one of the first grade spelling words, or you. That's the you. No, it's the pattern. It took, T-O-O-K, and I'll wait a minute. It took. Okay, then finger space the, T-H-E, finger space Pilgrims. I'm going to capitalize Pilgrims because I'm calling them that. So that's going to be a proper noun. Pilgrims, P-I-L-G-R-I-M-S. Okay, I'm going to stop right there and let you guys catch up. It took the Pilgrims, going to let you write that. How long did it take the Pilgrims to sail across the Atlantic Ocean? Do you remember? How many weeks? We talked about it. That was the last reading we had. It took 9 weeks. Now, what's 9 weeks? How many months is that while you're copying this? I'm just going to ask you. You can always pause this to catch up, to copy it. But 9 weeks is 2 months and 1 week, because there's an average, or about 4 weeks in every month. Some months have a few extra days, so it looks like there are 5 weeks in it, just like April this year has a lot of weeks. Okay, it took the Pilgrims. Now I'm going to write 9 weeks, and I'm going to write the word for 9 since we're writing a sentence. Whenever we're writing sentences, we generally want to write the words out for numerals if they're under 100 or certainly under 20. So it took the pilgrim, I'm going to write 9. Pilgrims, finger space, 9. N-I-N-E, 9. And I'm going to do another, I'm going to go down to the below it. It took the pilgrims 9, and then I'm going to write weeks down here. Weeks, W-E-E-K-S, finger space, 2, T-O, finger space, sail, S-A-I-L, finger space, across, A-C-R-O-S-S. I know I'm going a little bit fast. I'll hold it up and let you watch it. Across, finger space, V, T-H-E. Okay, and then what ocean did they sail across? Who knows? It's written right there in blue. On the blue. It might be written in black on the blue. That's right, the Atlantic Ocean. So let's read that sentence together so far. It took the pilgrims 9 weeks to sail across the, and I'm going to write Atlantic Ocean. And you can see that word right there, Atlantic Ocean. And I'm going to go down below weeks at A-T, and it has to be a capital because it's a proper noun because it's the name of the Atlantic Ocean. A-T-L-A-N-T-I-C, finger space, and another capital for ocean, O-C-E-A-N. And you can copy it right off your picture. All right, I'll hold this up. And if you aren't finished, you can push pause on this and finish copying the sentence. And then, but I'm not going to pause it. I'm going to go on and start reading. But you can push pause because it's going to take me a minute. Oops. Yeah, to get set up. Sorry. Should have had that ready. But hopefully you push pause and you are getting ready to go. Okay. Let's see where we are. Well, when we left, they had a washing day. Do you remember? Yep, they all went, or at least the women and children went to the shore. Some men helped them set up the heavy pots and the fire, and they started boiling the water. And the last thing that happened was Priscilla brought her good stew out to the people on shore. All right. We're not to that yet, but we'll get there. A Wild Land is the next title of the next chapter. The next day, some of the pilgrims sailed along the shore for several miles, still looking for a deep, safe harbor and a stream of clear water. At last, they noticed a little brook and turned their boat toward the shore. Leaving 4 men to guard the boat, the others struck into the forest. Not a sound did they hear, but the rustling of dry leaves as they walked through them, or the moaning of the wind in the treetops. The November woods seemed very bare and lonely. When they had gone a mile or two, they saw a large deer drinking at the brook. They stood still and watched him, but the deer had heard their step. He raised his beautiful head and listened a moment, then bounded swiftly into the forest. But William Bradford was not watching the deer. His sharp eyes had seen something moving on the hilltop not far away. As he gazed, he saw first the head and shoulders, then the whole body of a man appear over the brow of the hill. Then came another and another. Could it be John Alden and the others had left the boat and come after them? Surely they would not disobey the captain, for Miles Standish had told them not to leave the boat, lest the natives take it. But now he could see their dark faces and their long black hair and eagle feathers. "Look," he whispered, "Indians, Indians." "Perhaps that means work for Gideon," thought Captain Standish as he seized his sword. "Put away your sword, Captain," said Governor Carver gently. "We want to make friends of these people if we can. Perhaps they can tell us of some town or settlement. At least we may be able to buy some food from them." So the Pilgrims waited quietly in the shadows of the forest until the Indians came near. Down the hill they came, their quick eyes looking for the print of a deer in the soft earth. When they reached the foot of the hill, they saw tracks which had been made by no animal of the forest. Neither had they been made by Indians' moccasins. There seemed to be hundreds of these tracks. What could it mean? They stood close together and peered eagerly into the forest. Then the Pilgrims stopped from behind the trees and came toward them. John Carver, the governor, held out to them some strings of bright beads, but the Indians would have none of them. For a moment they gazed at the white men in terror. Then, without stopping to fit an arrow to their bowstrings, they fled. Where had they gone? Had the earth opened up and taken in their frightened children? Only an Indian knows how to disappear so quickly. "Look," they said when they were safely away, "pale faces have come." The Pilgrims followed the Indians for 10 miles. But they did not come within sight of the natives again all that day, though they often saw the print of their feet. I want to show you a picture. It was the Indians that had come up to the footprints, and I was not making that clear. Okay, there's a picture of the Indians when they had seen the footprints, and they did not recognize them as deer or as Indian moccasins. Why? Because the Pilgrims wore shoes and boots. They didn't wear Indian moccasins, did they? No. Let's see. All right. They saw tracks which had been made by no animal of the forest, is what the picture says. Sometimes these, now we're talking about the Pilgrims following them. Sometimes these footprints showed where the Indians had climbed a hill to watch the white men. When night came, the men found a sheltered place to camp until morning, because they'd gone 10 miles away from the shore and from their boat. They built a fire, and while two kept watch for the night, the others slept. In the morning, they marched on again, going further south. They saw fields where corn had been raised, but not an Indian or a house of any kind. No doubt the Indians saw them very often and knew just where they were at all times, even though the Pilgrims didn't know where the Indians were. A little later in the day, the Pilgrims came to some strange-looking houses. They were round and low with a small opening for a door. A hole in the top served for a chimney. The men went from one house to another, but could find no one. They knelt down and crawled into the wigwams. But there the fires had burned out many days before. In the wigwams, they found earthen pots and dishes, wooden bowls, and beautiful baskets made of grasses and trimmed with shells. Now they could see that the framework of the wigwam was made of long willow branches with both ends stuck into the ground. Over the frame, the Indians had fastened large mats of woven reeds, which kept out the cold and the rain. From the inside, the wigwam looked like a great open umbrella. "What is this?" cried one of the men as he came upon a little mound of earth near the Indian village. "Perhaps it is an Indian grave," replied another. "No, it is too wide and round for that. We will open it and see what is buried here." So they dug away the earth and found a large basket. It was round and narrow at the top and was covered with large leaves. After a good deal of trouble, the basket was raised from the hole and opened. It was filled to the brim with corn, some white, some red, and some of a bluish color. This was Indian corn. It did not grow in England or Holland then, and the Pilgrims had never seen grain like it before. It tasted very good, and the Pilgrims were much in need of food. The provisions which they had brought from England were almost gone. So finally they decided to take back to the Mayflower as much corn as they could carry and pay the Indians for it when they could. Soon they dug up about 10 bushels of corn. Then they went to the shore and built a fire as a signal for the boat to come for them and take them back to the Mayflower. Wow. Okay, this shows a picture. It's supposed to be an Indian wigwam, but it is not. It is actually a picture of a teepee, which is what the Plains Indians had, because this to me does not look like woven mats. It looks like fur or pelts that were sewn together. This is a wrong picture in both of these books. I will find a picture of a wigwam. Actually, we even looked at one in the geometry book, or we might have looked at one when we talked about Squanto earlier in the year. I think we did. Because the Indians that lived in the forest in New England, or the northern part and the eastern part of the United States, they did not make teepees. They made wigwams. And just as he said, they took willow trees, which were soft, and they bent them over in an arch and stuck both ends in the ground. And they kept making them that way. So it would kind of also almost make a semicircle or a half circle, or it would look like you took a cylinder and cut it in half and laid it down. Almost like those Viking homes we looked at earlier in the year that Leif Erikson. And there should be pictures of Viking homes in your history journal. So you can go back and look at that, but this was not an accurate picture of a wigwam. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, were they stealing that corn? Well, they were taking it without permission, but the Indians had all fled. And they said they were going to try to pay them back for the corn later when they met them. So I guess technically they didn't consider it stealing.